having Final Fantasy 11 be the place to experiment with Final Fantasy 14 fans means that really Final Fantasy 11 doesn't have to change at all. It would be all new to a lot of Final Fantasy 14 fans.
Well, and they like, even with all like its challenge, there's things that I've even seen people advocate that like Final Fantasy 11 and Unreal, like that would be wild. And one of the things that I would love to see is them actively like invest in something like that and set it up for another 10 years. They've said in interviews they'd love for Final Fantasy 11 to run 100 years, right? The only way I think you really do that is that you have to kind of look at the core game and say, what can we bring forward? What can we not? And offering a classic option would be a really good choice, because then you can kind of help out people who want that. But that's the same thing back to Hunting for Games is our, he talked about Horizon 11, which is a project to try and say, hey, we want to keep everything at level 75 cap, because that's what the game was at so long before it eventually raised to 99. And we want to bring in all the latest expansions, but also balance those out for level 75 cap, because everybody has a different definition of what was the classic era for 11, but Square Enix could offer that within their offering. And then if they were to take 11 and keep it with that sandbox style, which isn't the most popular style of MMO, like that's what like I've said about myself. I'm advocating for the minority in terms of what the numbers show. Theme Park clearly is the big numbers winner. A lot of people enjoy Theme Park for its strengths. Sandbox is slower, and I think the future of the MMO though is the Sand Park, where you combine Sandbox and Theme Park. But regardless, is that they could have that. So if somebody was like me, like, hey, I would love it if there was more Sandbox style elements in Final Fantasy 14. Well, good news. There's no other. The only answer to that is, well, good news, because you can download that, because it is still set in the Final Fantasy universe. It has its own story. It does these things that you are looking for, and you can experience it all for the price. And then, hey, guess what? New expansion or new story. It's like you can come in and you can basically then cherry pick the things that you enjoy most about the different styles. And I think that would be interesting in terms of data, right? Like, would Final Fantasy 11 actively start growing again if there was the one subscription model? And I don't know. It could, it might not. And so then it comes down to the risk of them taking time to develop and blend these systems in the back end so that it became something that you could manage, because the front end with Play Online is one of the key aspects that I think holds Final Fantasy 11 back. Like, if you were to start Final Fantasy 11 today, like you've stated numerous times, the difficulty of, and your wife saying, Chris, just never unsub from 14 because it's such a hassle for you whenever you.
And I always come back. Like, right. I haven't unsubbed in years.
Right.
I always come back.
And it was there was some friction in terms of reapplying your sub with your bank. Yeah. And like, it was this deal. And it was like, you hear the frustration, and then your wife's like, I'm tired of hearing you complain about trying to resub. It's just a part of our budget. You're just going to be subbed to 14. And essentially, I think that helps to kind of to bridge that gap. And I think that'd be kind of cool. And setting themselves up for a really cool future would be awesome as well in that regard. So I think it's going to be interesting to see. I would love to see them refresh 11, but there's things they would have to drop. There's things systems that existed in 11 at the day that don't make sense today. You'd have to get rid of Play Online. You'd have to make it to where it would be cool if it was all within the same launcher, even, right? Like, where you just boot up, you log in, and then it's like, do you want to play 14 or 11 or, then all of a sudden I think you start getting that strength of where you're removing that level of friction. And some people feel like that friction is required, and some people don't. And so then that becomes the classic debate as well. So I'm going to be interested to see how Horizon 11 does and launches, and see if it draws in a hungry community, because that's still private server supported content.
Ultimately, content wise, this topic just excited me because I think Dragonflight is moving in a good direction. It's hard to say this early on. It doesn't mean it won't struggle 6 months from now. The last two expansions, I felt really good at the beginning, and I didn't feel good a year later. So ultimately, like, watching the interviews and things like that, it really just showed me like I'm still frustrated that they made a big deal out of like levels need to matter, and then they just added 10 more levels. But then I played it, and it's like, it's a WoW experience. So, ideally you have the foresight to have things like Guild Wars where you have like mastery tracks, so these expansion silos have a place. Ideally you've baked in enough room for your kind of seasonal menu, but like your core concept, whatever it is, good and bad, live and grow with it. Live and grow with it. I'm liking Dragonflight. I'm liking a lot of what's going on, and I'm liking the way I'm liking a lot of their attitude towards Classic and towards the community and towards the events of the last several years, and watching all their interviews, and I'm really impressed. And it's something that, like, I hope Final Fantasy never has to go through the pain that Blizzard does.
Yeah.
But you know, it's great to see that games can come back to a little bit healthier of a place, and I hope that's what Dragonflight ends up being 2 years from now. I hope we look back at this post 2 years from now, and it's not like, oh, you sweet summer child. Like, I hope that's a really good thing. Because my initial impressions are MMOs need to stop trying to reinvent themselves. We live in an age where these publishers have so much money. Make other games if you want to. It's kind of like you with other YouTube channels. If there are people that don't like you and I discussing things, don't watch Work to Game. And I'm not saying don't watch me. I hope you enjoy the content I make. And if you don't, and I'm not saying don't watch Ryan, I hope you enjoy the content he makes. But we've separated that. I've got content on gaming, kinda. You've got content on Ginger Prime. You've got content on different games siloed to different areas, so that people can consume exactly only the part they want. And if they're like, man, I really don't like New World, great. Then don't go to Brian's New World channel.
Yeah.
Because it's intentionally siloed off. So if you're saying that you just keep showing up to his New World videos and you hate New World, that's you. And so, like, I think that's the beauty of this. Stop making people feel like they did something wrong, like they walked into the wrong restroom, but you changed the signs. Like, it just stop making World of Warcraft feel like people are like, well, if you don't like it, get out of here. And it's like, but I thought I did like World of Warcraft. You changed. So, like, keep making the same game. And then that way the players can decide where they want to be, and they don't feel like they're being bait and switched. Keep making the same thing over and over and over. And if you need to make a big pivot, I mean, Work to Game has had some big pivots. It's one big pivot, and then we stay here. This is us now. This is a discussion-based channel. We're just going to chat. That's what we're going to do. It's not going to upload as often. It's going to be what it is. And all the other stuff is going to go live on much more dedicated channels. And so I think that's what Blizzard has kind of shown me here that I appreciate, and why I like Final Fantasy so much is keep being Final Fantasy 14. Because if I ever don't want 14, I don't want whatever I do want to come in Final Fantasy 14 packaging. So if I ever want to play a shooter, I just want to go play a different game entirely. And there's nothing Final Fantasy 14 can do to keep me. So don't try. It ends up pissing everybody off.
Yeah.
The people who were happy with what you were doing, the people who wanted a shooter left anyway. So just let me go play the other game and trust that you made something so good that I am going to come back and want that burger. I am going to want that burger. If you make a great game, I'm going to come back.
Couple of announcements before we wrap, though, and then jump into this question is that I'll be performing at the Hyenas Comedy Club in Fort Worth on January 21st. So if you guys are in the area and you want to come to an adult themed comedy show, be sure to come check out Hyenas January 21st. And I'll let you guys know also if I get any more shows. It's my first weekend show, so they've upgraded me to weekend comedian, which is going to be exciting to see. And then, Chris, do you have any announcements? You're going to be streaming World of Warcraft after this?
I mean, it's launch week. Yeah.
Of course, yeah. And then
I don't think that's crazy to say in an MMO you're going to play that one game all week, launch week.
Yeah, Friday and Saturday also I'll be streaming, Friday afternoon, and then Julie's giving me the day Saturday, so I'll be over on Twitch playing some New World, and maybe I'll dip back into Embers a little bit, etc. So, anyway, do you want to jump into Paul's, or do you have any announcements?
I don't. I'm publishing a lot to Gaming Kinda, and I appreciate that we turned on memberships over there as that starts to kind of be its own standalone venture. And so I really do appreciate all the comments and support over there. That's been awesome. People that have wanted the longer format because they don't like hanging out on Twitch, or they're not available that day and they don't like Twitch VODs because the Twitch VODs tool is better, but still not great. The Gaming Kinda 2 is me. Gaming Kinda
Yeah.
2. I just put it up as an archive channel. I was like, well, if somebody ever
Yeah,
really
yeah.
wants the whole thing,
Yeah, there
and
you
like
go.
it was getting like 15 views, and I was like, great, that's those 15 people that really wanted the long format. So I'm glad we did that. So it takes a while for everything to export and for them to upload, but it's just a non-monetized channel. It's just like an archive. Go let Google servers handle the big long version. But then like a whole bunch of people have really been enjoying that over there, and so um, it's flying through the watch time to come towards monetization. It got like 2,000 hours of people's time last month, which is just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's got 84 subscribers.
Yeah.
So you guys feel free to go check that out
It's
if you
actually
want
tagged
the
also in
longer
the
format.
description. It's also tagged in the description of this. So if you guys want both, be sure
If
to
it ever
go.
got to 1,000
Yeah.
subscribers, then it would start to
Yeah.
generate. I would. It's going to have ads on it either way. YouTube serves ads either way. It's
Right.
just whether or not you want me to get half of it.
Yeah.
Uh, so,
That's y'all.
so like Gaming Lore Kinda, for example, generates somewhere between $7 and $8 a month, and
Woohoo!
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
You pay for his coffee, twice a month right now by supporting him over on Gaming Lore Kinda. So as we wrap, unfortunately now it's time for me to go scrum it up and build these apps as well. So yeah, maybe I'll go back and we'll try to capture your question, Paul. But maybe Chris will continue and answer that over on Twitch. So for those of you hanging out, thanks so much for the lively discussion. I really appreciate it. It was such a really good way to talk to each and every one of you. We should be back this coming Friday for another live show as we're trying to do these Monday, Wednesday, Friday as time and schedules permit. And so, guys, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and hit end broadcast. It's going to spin its way out, and you can go hang out and chat with Chris about WoW, about 14, about any and all of this. And we'll see you over there. And then
The answer is yes, Paul.
the answer is yes.